And we are recording with my buddy Ed, who's been on here once before on Wednesday, June 19th, 2024, at 10:42 a.m. Eastern Time. With my buddy Ed, who's been on here once before. His I don't know, I think I have your Instagram in the description. And you've done I think you've done marathon long podcasts and um, but yeah, you've gone here once before, and I think the first episode we did was talking about mushrooms or LSD on 9/11, which to me was just a wild story. And
in
in
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, just fucking absolutely crazy. And I don't know why my face is glowing red right now. I don't even have any red lights on. I'm looking at it on another camera, and it's the normal pasty white. So I have no idea what's going on. We tried Rumble Studio again, so it wasn't just Dr. Rose yesterday. It's also Ed. There's crazy feedback. So Rumble, get your shit together. You want people to use Rumble Studio. I have like the lowest maintenance show. I don't do graphics. There's no there's no guitar entrance. There's no moving. It is so simple. It's just three, two, one, and we are recording, and that's it. And that's not working. So Rumble Studio, if you can't, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. That's what it is right now. If you can't handle my podcast, you're not going to handle any podcast because mine is as elementary as you. It's literally start Zoom, hour passes, end Zoom, and we can't do it. But I'll save my raging for a more productive outlet. Maybe I'll go to the gym or something. But Ed, what are we getting into today? I have climate change debate as the topic, but as you know, the topic means truly nothing. It is a suggestion. But yeah, Ed, introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll just jump into it.
Yeah, I'm Edward, head of Chia Music, and I'm putting out an open invitation to anyone who wants to debate climate change, anytime, anywhere, right here on Tommy's podcast. I'm arguing CO2 is good for the environment.
How dare
And
you?
if you would like to argue that CO2 is bad, then let's have a debate. I just think that that's a key bottleneck in this ridiculous hypnosis. And so if you would like to debate me on climate change, anyone in the world, anytime, and let's do it on Tommy's podcast.
Yeah, and as you guys know, I'm open to host anything. I had on that guy last week talked about flat Earth. I don't necessarily agree with it, but hey, man, I'll have anyone on and talk about stuff. Like I don't care. Like pitch it to me. Like what do I care? The one thing I guess for me and all of my I guess experience, which is nothing. The one thing that always gets me with climate, start apart from whatever our understanding is of solar minimums and solar maximums, whatever understanding we have of, the cycles of Earth's climate. I don't know anything about it. I have a biology degree. I do a podcast, so I'll just try to be as humble and aware as I can about my lack of knowledge on it. The one thing that gets me is whenever something really is a threat, you can see the powers that be respond in an according manner. Summer 2020, the riots in the United States, they let that happen. January 6th, no property damage, nothing burned. 3 years later, they're still using the full force of the intelligence agencies to hunt down these people. The southern border, no one cares. Xi Jinping comes and visit San Francisco. They bust out every homeless person. They clean the streets. They're able to do it if they truly want to. So for me, I'm like, so you're capable. If you really want to, you're capable. And we've seen that they're capable. Why is nuclear power not, why do we not have three nuclear power plants in every state in the United States? It's been around since the 50s. Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace, the disasters we all know about, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, those were all second generation reactors. We're on sixth generation now. We know how to use near limitless energy with a byproduct of water vapor. We have salt caves out in Utah and Nevada. I've had on Richard Rhodes, the authority, making the atomic bomb, Pulitzer Prize winning author. He came on, and he's a liberal guy. He's been on the show many times, and he's like, we have salt caves out west where you can bury these casks of nuclear waste And if everything went wrong, if someone went in there, if a terrorist went in there with a bomb and blew up all the casks, he's like the literal salt block that's miles wide and tall and deep that this thing is carved into. It would take 750 million years for the radiation to seep through. So to me, I'm like, we're capable, we're advanced enough, and we even have the place for the waste here in the US. Why are we not using that? And to
And
me, that
also
right there says it's all BS.
yeah, and also the free energy, as your man Ashton Forbes is on, and
Oh,
also
sure.
petrol is renewable. Petrol is a
Sure.
renewable fuel.
Oh,
It's
sure.
not short on supply. It's good for the environment because it gives off CO2. Doesn't It's good for the trees, and the trees give out oxygen. That's good for me. If you want to breathe in CO2, good for you. But petrol's fine, and there's
Yeah.
lots of it, and it basically grows back.
Yeah. And it's, and so me and my buddies were actually talking about that the other night, actually specifically Ashton Forbes over Unity. You don't even need to go into that though. That's all still, we're posture. Is it super classified? Does it exist? And we should look into that, but you don't even need to. That's, we don't even need to. It's like somebody pitching like hypersonic anti-gravitics for commercial airliners. And it's like, yeah, let's look into that. But we also have planes that we've been using for a fucking century. Like we don't even need to open that up, right? So to me, that right there, based on capability, the southern border, January 6th, San Francisco, and possibility, putting the waste out west. These things have been around for 80 years. Limitless energy. And then, hey, where do we not mess around with nuclear energy? Nuclear power subs and aircraft carriers, the crown jewels of our military industrial complex. Do those things run off firewood? No, no, no. Nuclear energy. To me, that right there across the board says it's all bullshit.
And also, most of the energy we use is not really that necessary.
Yeah.
Uh, how much? I mean, if you're living in the middle of Russia or somewhere, or in the Antarctic, or in Alaska, then yeah, you need some energy to fuel the house. But realistically, how much of daily energy use is if there was just a local club around the corner where all people did was dance to techno, smoke drugs, and sleep with hot girls, like realistically, how much energy are you using at home? You
Hmm.
don't really need it. It's all fake, isn't it? It's a control mechanism. Get people addicted to using stuff and then trick them into thinking that the way it's powered is exponentially bad for the environment and going up in price. It's just
Hmm.
levers of power,
So
I
let's
think anyway.
let's then, yeah, let's zoom out a little bit and then look at that theme. So like, well then why is it unraveling the way it is? Why do we see the things that we see? All right. So like what are all these things? So on one hand, you kind of have the argument that I used to make. And it's like, let's say climate change isn't real. Like, what's bad about getting on solar? What's bad about getting on windmills, geothermal? Sure, oh no, the meme is like, oh no, so we got off foreign oil for no reason. No, I get that. And that's fair. We can get off foreign energy dependence with nuclear power plants. It's all right there. So all of the arguments lead to that. And then conversely, it's like, all right, so let's just throw it out there. So how do we, capture CO2? How do we reduce emissions? Uh, Global taxes, monitoring of your personal vehicles that can also be shut down at any time, and reduce the living quality of your own life, and reduce the actual health of your body through lab grown meats. So it kind of seems like bullshit, and the solution is something that radically increases their grip on your body and your mind and your ability to move around independently in the reality we find ourselves.
Yeah,
It
it's all a
seems a
lever of
little
control.
seems a little hairy to me.
Yeah, they're trying to, we're the carbon they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
The world's not heating up. The
No.
sea level everywhere I've been in the world is exactly the same now as 15 or 30 years ago. The weather's exactly the same everywhere I've lived. Occasionally it's bad in California. That's strange. That's where Hollywood is. And it
Yeah.
also in Australia once. So it's almost like they're manipulating the media to make you think that climate change is worse than it is. I've personally never seen anything, so I'll go with what I've seen.
Hmm. So then, are we seeing sort of an end game? Are they doing this now
Oh yeah,
because we're, again, coincidentally, we're at the spot of general AI maturity and robotics and mechanized industry, where all of a
that's all
sudden you,
bullshit as well. AI is just a computer program you can turn off. It isn't this thing that's run like got loose and
no, no, no,
fucked it. It's
I don't mean it got loose. I mean, the argument's always been, how come they don't kill all the peasants? Because they need the peasants. They need the peasants to clean the castle, to do the crops, to fight the wars. What happens when you get to a point where robotics and just general AI, they're smart enough that the robots can move around. We're at a point now where you don't need the peasants. And
yeah,
coincidentally
well, the
enough,
end game is killing most of us. That's what they're working on. So the climate change is a psychological attack to make people scared, not fight back, think that we're doing something wrong. We've got to save the world and unify together to fight this evil. And then at the end of it all, we're all going to be in America called federal death, like basically like Auschwitz death camps.
FEMA
Apparently the
camps,
guillotine
yeah,
is FEMA camps. Apparently the guillotine is what the elite has been looking at. Apparently they think that's the most efficient way to off the majority. That's what
yeah,
I've heard recently. So that's the future of climate change, is having your head chopped off by a guillotine in the middle
yeah.
of the desert.
Yeah, I remember seeing those back in like 2012, I think. I vividly remember sitting in my dorm room in college. I was just way too high. And I was like scrolling through like Reddit or something. And it was pictures of all the guillotines and the caskets, the big like hermetically sealed coffins that apparently FEMA ordered, no, Department of Homeland Security was, I think it was 2011 or 2012. It was a big thing that they had purchased, I think, 1.2 billion rounds of ammunition, which they said was enough for a 30-year civil war. But then, to play devil's advocate, nothing happened with that. So why is it making the
With
rounds again now?
with what? Sorry.
So like back in 20, everything like the guillotines of the FEMA camps, all the images that are now floating around again in the last week or two, those exact images, not like similar, but those exact ones I remember seeing back in 2012 because I freaked out. I was way too high.
2012. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was scrolling through Reddit one day and I was like, oh man, they're gonna kill us all. And it's been 12 years. Now, granted, they've released a bioweapon and then another bioweapon, and where they're pushing us towards World War III. So maybe now they're really going for it. But just to play devil's advocate, that was kind of all fear porn. Remember Jade Helm? That was apparently the big operation, is under the guise of a military practice. They were going to impose martial law in the United States.
Hmm.
It's also just been 12 years and that didn't happen. So, like, for my own mental limberness, I have to play devil's advocate against myself and be like, why didn't these things happen? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think 2020, what they thought would happen is what I don't think there was a bioweapon, by the way. I think that's the vaccine. But I think that they thought that there'd be a critical mass of people that start to get sick from the vaccine, and that then they would ask people to go to health centers. So I've
Mm.
got a former girlfriend actually in China during the madness of the last few years. So she got escorted. She's like probably 30 now or something, but she was escorted with her now boyfriend to one of these basically porta cabins in the middle of nowhere in China.
Mm.
And she just followed along and she messaged me on Facebook from there. And I said, you're really probably in danger. Like it's not what you think it is. This is not like it. You really may have to fight your way out. I
Mm.
think you're really in danger. And they wouldn't let her out. They kept delaying another day. Like she was completely fine. Fake test, no virus. So they were testing it in China. They test everything in China first, this cult. And you can see it in everything they've done. First, the Great Firewall of China was in China
Mhm.
first, then now it's everywhere. But obviously they give you a little bit of it with China. It'll never happen everywhere else. And so they do the death camp tests in China. So I'm sure that they were just testing to see. They have to get everyone to walk into it. That's the key. To do it in the FEMA camps, people have to be hypnotized enough to think they're sick enough to walk straight into the camp, because any sort of fight back, it won't just be a small fight back, it'll be a full rear guard action. And I should think people, when they realize what's happening, will fight back. So it's like this push-pull where they have to do it so subtly. You have to walk in of your own free will, like my ex-girlfriend. She's fine now. But that's almost at the same time, if you remember, in China, they were locking people's houses with chains, and suddenly there were street protests. There was like, oh my God, Chinese are fighting back. And within a week, it was like all the lockdowns and restrictions were almost gone overnight in the media in China. It may have been a 24-hour period when it could have all kicked off, but I think that's their game. I think they'll lose now. I think that they'll fail. They were all in 2020, 2021. And it may have been the Canadian truckers, shout out to them, that were the difference. That was, and your podcast with Dr. Malone and Matthias Desma, which I've said before, I think is the single most important minute in podcast history. Hopefully you've got that pinned at the top, but go back and listen to that, anyone who's watching. Like, Malone woke people up from hypnosis on Rogan, just at the point when people were like, surely this is not, it is happening, is it real? And he just did enough, I think. And then your first hour actually, but with Desma, I was watching that thinking, yeah, it's mass formation psychosis. It's a psychosis of groups. So I would urge Desma to put that word back in. I think that's a key reason that we're still in this hypnotic state, that he wants to call it mass formation. People have to hear the phrase mass formation psychosis to snap them out of the state. Without saying what it is, you're not being direct. And so that might be the difference between death camps and no death camps. I really do think that.
When you say you think they're failing, expand on that. Because, I mean, obviously they'll never admit
Yeah.
they're failing, right? But from your observations, you're a bright guy. They're failing. Can you go into that?
Yeah, I think that it's like when you see the evil of what's going on, they're all in it. Hollywood, there's like child abuse going on in the elite, it seems. They're cloning world leaders. Like I had no idea of this in 2020. I would have just said bullshit. So they put all their chips on the table and they went all in. And I don't think they needed to. I think they could have got people to walk into death camps without the fake COVID virus. But it was so, they went so hard with it that a very small number of people, maybe 0.01% or maybe less, are so idealistic, they're just not going to go along with it. And they were the people they snapped out of the state of hypnosis in 2020. So they were probably planned this years ago, and they probably thought, right at the end we have to go all in, scare people with a virus, fuck them up, get them addicted to technology for 30 years, and then they're in, and we'll kill them within 2 years. Well, you could just ask them to walk in. You don't have to make a virus up. They're so hypnotized. Like, you probably could just... So I think that happened, and then podcasts like yours, independent media, it started to unravel, and they're going to go all in on a bird flu or something else, 5G probably. I think that's going to do something, but I just think there's too many people who will fight to the death, who are too idealistic for them to win, like, statistically. As a numbers game, I think they'll lose now. They could have won in 2020 if they'd played it better, but I don't think they will now.
That's what I tend to think. I tend to think if they a little differently. I think if they had simply did what they did in 2020 in 2026, 2028. I think if they had just held off for
Yeah.
5 years. I mean, a month before Dr. Malone went on Rogan, Dr. McCullough did. Dr. McCullough said he thinks that COVID, this is back in November 2021, he said this. He goes, I think COVID was meant to be released in 2026. He goes, they jumped the gun. I'm curious about why they jumped the gun, because they're patient. right? I mean, the Federal Reserve was 1913, right? World War One gets rid of
Yeah.
monarchies. World War Two really weakens general nationality. You have the big ones, East and West, but you've gotten rid of a lot of the smaller kingdoms and identity. Like they move on the scale of decades.
Mm.
Why did they? Were they not expecting Trump? Did Trump throw a wrench in it? And so they just
I,
they grabbed the throttle and went full ahead. What do you think?
I think it's key point that Trump is clearly in that cult. He's clearly part of it. There's no way he's fighting against the system. If he is, it's subtly done, but he was the one who said take the poison shots and still
He's
is.
and he
So
still
he's
is.
his father took the rights for Tesla's inventions, apparently, according to
Mm,
uh, who was it? Bullin Bill, someone who came into one of our Twitter spaces. He walked off. Trump's father walked off, spelt Trumpf. Oh, they changed the spelling of his name. It's almost
yeah,
like they're trying to make him seem less European.
yeah, yeah.
His grandfather walked off with all of Tesla's inventions that Ashton Forbes is saying gives free energy and teleportation. So Trump's part of it. He wears a red satanic tie. He's part of the Republicans. If he wants to fight against it, just say, I've found something out. Press conference on Twitter, Trump's live.
Mm,
Got a slight problem. Turns out that elite child abuse and ritual sacrifice is going on all around the world, and there's a secret cult running everything. Do you support me overthrowing it? Yeah, fuck yeah. I'll vote for it. But he doesn't. He's fighting on the idea of like getting rid of Biden, who's probably a clone or a robot or something. Like he's that controlled opposition, but in my opinion, but what was the other part of the question you asked? You said, what was my
Um,
take on?
no, no, it was why did it get accelerated? If they're patient
Ah,
and they're long term, why would they do 2020 as so I'm with you. I'm still very I can't just brush it aside that Trump to this day still pushes the vaccine. I mean, he's out of office. He could have very clearly at a point been like, I was pressured, I was coerced by Fauci and the national security state, and now I look at what happened, and it was clearly not the right move. But he's still saying like that's my vaccine, that like that's my to me, like I can't just brush that under the rug. It's not like, if people that support Biden, they look at something that he says, like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And a lot of them go, yeah, I don't like that comment, but he's not Trump, so I'll brush it under the rug. That's a lot of politics, right? Is don't let perfection prevent progress. So it's like, don't get hung up on that. Okay, sure. And I would imagine a lot of conservative Republicans aren't too, happy about Trump's statement of grab him by the pussy. Sure, but they look at it and they go, generally, I like his economic doctrine, his foreign policy. So I get that. I can't brush aside the fact that to this day, he's still saying, I'm the father of the vaccine. That's my product. I've saved a lot of lives. You
yeah,
should go get to me. That's the biggest, like they're lying to your face. Like, and that does seem to be kind of like a tenet of like if they are this satanic cabal that we're postulating, isn't that part of like the thing? They have to like reveal the method. You have to do
yeah,
it voluntarily. That's how they. And people might roll their eyes at this, but like you have to like start thinking at this level. Like if they are what we're saying they are, that is part of like the credo, right? Is that's how they release
mm.
their karma. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but that's my hesitation and my reservations about Trump.
Yeah. Well, you said about they always have to show you what they're doing. Well, they've said about 2020 for a long time. So I think it was they specifically set the decade of 2020 to 2030 as the decade it will all go down. And instead of, like you said, just waiting until like 2026, give us two football World Cups a year, everyone gets like a sex robot doll or something, like people could be well and truly hypnotized by then. But they did it right 3 months going into 2020 was when the propaganda started. It couldn't be more clear that someone has said it starts on 2020 on the stroke of midnight. And so
Mm,
the reason they went ahead and did it that way, I think it's because you've got a central cult. It's ultimately going to be one person at the top. So
mm,
that would be my default answer. But I think as well, just because they've planned it this long. So they didn't have to, but they were just more likely going to. They probably just didn't expect uh, independent media to be ahead of the curve, basically. I think that
Mm.
that's the key. It was Rogan, it was you, and it was a small other band of people that just spread enough information to wake up people to start fighting back at the right time,
Mm.
truckers or whoever.
So what do you think the second half of 2020 holds? Just pure speculation.
This decade,
Yeah, the second half. And so we're coming up, we're halfway through 2024. So we're almost at 2025. The first half has been a total clusterfuck. What's the second half hold? In your
it's going to be one
estimation.
of, yeah, two things. It's either going to be they win and everyone's just determined to walk towards totalitarianism and it'll be bad. But then the other side of it is that whole idea of decades of change can happen in months. There's
Mm.
probably been hundreds of years of technological revolutions and things that have happened we've never seen, Ashton Forbes and things he's advocating for. We still don't have a live peer-to-peer voice network for spoken voice, a walkie-talkie anyone can talk to without a middleman service. So I think that by 2030 we'll be in freedom and we'll have an uncensorable form of communication that's voice only, so that anyone who's accused of a crime is going to be, it's going to be a legal place, a spoken voice. Courts are going to be on in conversations. There's going to be investigations in live conversations. If you've got an uncensorable voice network, you can't stop it. But right now, as you found with Rumble, you know, they can just screw the app up, or they can just make it harder for you to make money, or they can just be like, this filter doesn't work now. Like
Mm.
it's all reliant on the system. So we need something uncensorable. So I think that's inevitable. And once that happens, there's nowhere to hide for the guilty, because you could just say, you're on stage at 6, Mr. Trudeau, what have you got to say for yourself? And not turning up is a sign of guilt,
Mm.
fundamentally. So the guilty will run away from live media, and the innocent will sprint to it because they know that's the place to uh, sort of smoke out the guilty, I guess. So I think we're going to win. Projected holographic realities. I think there's going to be virtual worlds projected into the worlds we live in. I think all the old cities will be renovated. I think all the skyscrapers that are empty are going to be renovated by artists, like painting it, and it's going to be all owned on blockchain and shared. I think we're heading to an amazing future. I couldn't be more excited, but I would kind of like more people to open their eyes to what's going on so we can just have the revolution quickly whilst time is still available.
I like that. I talk to so many people that are so just doom and gloom that like I mean I get to a point where I'm like, dog, I can't like it is like it is a burden to my soul to just every day log in, start a podcast. Like the end of the world's here. I'm like, dude, I can't. I got like I gotta go for a walk, man. Like it gets too much. It legitimately gets too much. Like one of my friends is a psychologist, and she was like, if you listen to a podcast that's negative, you can just exit out. She's like, you're the host. You have to like nod and respond with questions. And she was like, and you don't have any tools on how to deal with this. She's like, as a psychologist, like we also learn how to like not take the burden of every patient and not bring it home. And I'm like, she's like, you have no idea how to do that. I'm like, I have no god. You know how it manifests? It's just me having a panic attack. So like, dude, it's so refreshing to hear you say, and not just blindly say it's going to be better. You actually have reason to believe that, and
Oh yeah.
it's and I think it's also Chia. Yeah,
Reform Pink
it,
Floyd.
it's I think it's also, it's like once you kind of dip your toe and you have to jump in, it's like, all right, so if we're talking about how they are like a satanic elite, like
Yeah.
I do think that them injecting fear into the system is not a random thing. It is, I mean, if we're getting into like quantum physics and the observer effect and consciousness, like it might be that, your mind really does create the reality around us. And if there's billions of us, that means that we're all communally creating the existence that we're in. If everyone believes that it's going to be bad, then there's a good chance that it's going to be bad. If people look, because there's a reason why they spend so much money on making us believe it's all screwed. If you can like extract
Yeah.
yourself from that and think about like, well, what if it was really good? What if it was like
Yeah.
that actually like that's not woo woo hippie. Like that might actually be think of how crazy like germ theory was 200 years ago, and now we know it to be true. We look back at old, books about surgeons who do a surgery, take the knife, wipe it off on their jacket, and then go do the next one. Now we're like, oh my God. Oh my God. But back then they're like, shut up, pussy. And then, and then they're surprised when everyone dies of sepsis. They're like, all right, whatever. Like, it might be so in 200 years, they might be like, oh my, they're like, oh, you have to stop feeding from the negativity trough. Like you can't eat negativity and then be surprised when you're shitting negativity. Right? It's like,
It does seem all the negativity is just from the media,
yeah,
from this cult trying to control everyone. So
yeah,
that's the madness, is that we've never lived in a world where the media's been deliberately used for good.
yeah,
And I'm not saying your podcast is not doing stuff for good, obviously it is, but I'm talking about from the top down. The
yeah,
people who control the media have used it to deliberately spread fear 24 hours a day for our entire life. So just
yeah,
imagine if the media was used for good for for 1 hour
yeah.
once.
Just once.
Forget about every day.
Not and let's go one step further and say, what if they didn't even use it for good? What if they just were as neutral as possible?
Yeah,
And
right.
some
Just
things
didn't
are
use it for
bad.
bad.
Sometimes
Yeah,
there is an earthquake, and sometimes there is a pedophile, and it's you can't hide that. It's the evil does exist, but there also might just be like in another other news, like 16 million people became parents today. What a
right.
beautiful experience. Like what, like, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Like, like
Yeah.
they don't eat, but they won't even touch that. They won't even
It's
come
the
near
Bill
that.
Hicks bit, isn't it? Saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
all matter is energy condensed to a slow vibration,
Today,
and
a young man on acid.
on
No, and
acid
yeah.
realized that all matter was merely
Energy
energy
condensed to a slow
of a
vibration
slow
that we are all
vibration,
one
all
consciousness
one
experiencing
consciousness,
itself
experiencing itself
subjectively.
subjectively.
Yeah.
There is no
There's no
such
such
thing as
thing as
God.
death or death. Life
Life
is
is
but a
but a dream,
dream, and we're the
and we are
imaginations of
merely
our
the
the
imagination of
imaginations of
ourselves.
ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
Is Tommy with the weather?
Yeah, I know, right? No, but Bill Hicks, right? I mean, and he talked about he was like, man, he's like, you ever turn on CNN?
Yeah,
Famine, war, death, rape,
for
depression,
sure.
recession. And
Yeah,
then you turn it
he
off and
was
you
30
yeah,
years ahead of the curve there,
yeah,
maybe 40.
yeah.
The
And
80s, what was that?
well, he died in what early 90s. And
93, I think.
yeah, he
So
was
yeah,
30. Yeah, he was 33. And like and and he was like and then you turn it off and you look outside and it's just like the moon is
yeah,
shining through the clouds and he's like, where's all this happening? Like,
yeah,
and it's like, again, it doesn't mean it's not happening. What it does mean though is it's not outside all of our houses,
yeah.
right?
It's misrepresentative, and
Yeah,
his that album, his comedy, really showed that.
yeah. No, he's brilliant. Revelations and yeah, no,
Anthony Minor.
no, he was brilliant, but and there is so much truth to that though. It's like if you do just unplug from it and look outside, it is like boringly positive.
Yeah,
The
good way
sun's
to phrase it.
shining, clouds are moving along. You're just like
People are happy. They're having a
you
laugh.
just see somebody walking by. There's like a bird, and you're like, "Where's like the artillery shells exploding?" And it's like that is happening, but it's happening on
But
like
they're doing it. The
one
people
millionth of
behind
the
the media,
surface.
people
Yeah.
behind the media are the ones doing it.
Yes.
So,
And so then you have to go like, well, how what is the importance of when an empire gets too big, it spreads its forces thin, and that's when the empire collapses. We've seen that all throughout human history, right? Is you have too few soldiers who are in charge of an entire town, and eventually the people revolt. Well, with a phone, you now essentially, and if the empire is of the mind, a small group of people can have an empire over 8 billion people. And how would you do it? you're looking at this instead of going outside and feeling the sun and seeing a butterfly go by. Instead, you're just scrolling and you're like, fuck, they're oh man, oh god, they're Gaza, Ukraine, Taiwan, southern border. Oh man, there are people shitting in the streets in San Francisco. I've never been there and I'll never visit, but oh no, like this is happening, and you put it down. It's just like a pigeon, just like sitting on a tree branch. And you're like, huh. And like your eyes and ears are telling you that like you're in the Garden of Eden. You're on God's perfect earth. And then you're like, man, the world's so fucked. It's like, what in God's name are you talking about? And I'm guilty of it, dude. I get sucked in all the time, and I have to. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Somebody tweeted yesterday, they're like, I'm a conservative, but I can't back the January 6th insurrection. And so I just commented, kill yourself, faggot. And so now, and my Twitter account got frozen this morning. So I just deleted the app. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe I just need to fully get off all of this stuff because it sucks you in, man. It absolutely sucks you in. But I like your concept of like it is going to get better and you're actually excited for it.
Oh
can you
yeah.
kind of get into that a little more?
Yeah, I want to talk about this
Yeah.
here. So this is the end game for me, is reform Pink Floyd. That this is what I've been working on for 6 years now, about four of it or even five of it secretly. But for now it's all pushing it forward with it. So it's going to come down to love versus hate. So either Pink Floyd will reform or we're going to live in a totalitarian state. It's going to come down to decisions like that. Why every other band in history wouldn't reform unless they're under the satanic control, which hopefully they're not, but because some of them are. Some of the people that you think are proper, like the Doors, used to be my favorite band, one of my favorite bands. It seems that they were just manufactured, like they were
Mhm.
military. It was a military experiment. It's fake, basically, like Manson. But not saying he's not a psycho, but they made that happen. So again, the people behind the media are doing everything, controlling the opposition and then controlling the psychopaths. So as soon as people realize this fact, the media is inevitably going to be taken over by the good guys. And it'll probably be at the BBC first in London or wherever the BBC is run from, because that's kind of the default, I think. So we need one big story. Reform Pink Floyd is my pick. And as soon as people realize that this is actually real, that they trick people into taking a poison, it's game over for the media. I mean, some of these media pussies, they're going to be sprinting down the street because they know that they're complicit. The doctors, I think they're, I wouldn't say they're innocent, but I can see why they don't want to admit what they've done. But lots of the media must know that there's ritual abuse going on in the hierarchies of media organizations, and they're surely going to run away. They're not going to be barricading the BBC headquarters saying no one's coming in. Like, it should be easy to get the BBC live stream if you've got a small military unit, not like 5 people, but I mean, 99% of the armies of America and Britain don't want a satanic elite. They're just not aware of it yet. So as
Hmm.
soon as that critical mass is reached, I beg your pardon, then it's inevitable. I just don't think that it can carry on. Unless I'm wrong on my synopsis and there is no satanic elite, but it's clear that there is. Stanley Kubrick showed it,
Hmm.
and I trust him.
So you think it's more of a so that's one thing I've thought is like what would happen if someone at the NSA just like I don't know hijacked every screen on the planet and just like dumped evidence of this shit.
Most of the NSA don't know who they're working for, I would think.
Sure.
Without naming names, I'm quite involved in the Chia community, as you know, which is a blockchain. It's not quite clear who's pulling the strings, and I say that as someone who's promoted Chia. So I think most of the people in the NSA are good people, and there's probably good side and bad side. So yeah, they could do that. They could turn the internet off. They could attack every minority group with weapons of mass destruction from the sky. But I think when people realize this is real, the people pulling the strings, it literally is a satanic elite. I think all the people in the NSA will be incentivized to fight back in different ways because they don't want to be labeled as complicit. So I think there'll be a critical mass when people just start sort of fighting the system in their own way. I think
Hmm.
just people haven't quite realized the stakes are so high yet.
The $1 trillion question. Does it go out with a whimper or does it go out with a bang? Does it just kind of,
Hmm.
does it just, is it,
I think more
do you
likely a whimper
break
is my
out of the prison
intuition.
cell with thermite and shotgun, or do one day you go up to the prison door and realize the gate just opens and you go, oh, we can leave, you know, like does the dog rip its collar off, or does it one day does it realize that the collar is not actually attached to the chain and it goes, oh, I'm gonna leave now. I
I
kind of
think it.
think it's gonna be a whimper.
I think whimper. Yeah. Uh, if there's like 7 billion people, or however many there are, all are against it, and there's like 300 people who are secretly for it, unless they've got a button they can press that can just trigger a weapon. But I think even their family members and people are incentivized to carry on living. So I think a whimper's more likely, which is probably in everyone's interests. It's going to
Hmm.
happen in the media though. It'll be the probably the BBC 24-hour live news where you see it first, because
Hmm.
that's just, you can't ignore it if it's there. As soon as the BBC is, oh, actually, there's a poison been injected into people, I just think everyone's
You
surely going
think
to wake up.
that'll?
Yeah, I think so. People just, my lovely mum, people just can't accept it unless they see it either on
I'm
the
an
BBC
authority
or in the
figure.
newspaper. Yeah,
That would be it. Yeah, like what would happen if you had BBC World News or CNN was just like they bring on like I don't know, like the director of like the DIA or something, and they just come out and they're like, through, it's been verified and turns out that the COVID vaccine was a bioweapon, and executed by a small group of psychopaths who wanted to depopulate the world because they believed that general AI and robotics were mature enough so that they could get rid of people. And people will be like, what is this, like a hoax? And as you saw like other news stations picking it up, that would be that would be wild. But I feel like that's the only way you could really do it. I think otherwise you have
mm.
people that they're just so ingrained in the idea of saying or believing that it can't possibly be true, you know?
Yeah, I think if they reach that critical mass, I think by the time they get to the TV studio, everyone's going to be gone. It's going to be like a zombie movie where all the people that used to work there just disappear. Like there'll
Mm,
probably be no security because, I mean, look at 9/11. I mean, it's obvious that that was a demolition, quite
mm,
clearly. Moon landings are clearly fake. So
mm,
it's not just the poison shots, it's two, including a positive lie, which is what the moon landings were. And that's obviously key to the hypnosis of giving the
mm,
media credibility. But none of these events stand up to any uh, logical debate once you present the evidence of what's happened. I've
mm,
seen it myself. You present the evidence, German pathologists showing there's nanotech in the vaccines, people just don't respond after that because it's clear evidence. Same with 9/11. And moon landings are clearly fake. So once the dominoes start to fall, you realize the media itself is the thing that's been doing it. It isn't an independent thing. It's controlled by basically a family. And as soon as
mm,
that singular control is gone, then it should be a quick revolution.
mm. It does, yeah. It does feel like it would kind of end relatively quickly because it's not neutral. They're constantly applying pressure to control everything. Once you take your foot off the gas, the thing just kind of, right? It's like, constantly mowing the grass. You could say grass is like individual liberty and happiness and, God's love. And they've been mowing it every day for 5,000 years. Once you take it away, you don't even really have to change your behavior. It will just start to kind of grow and become what it was always meant to be, right? And we're so used to like if these are trees, like we're so used to them just being destroyed when they're little tiny twigs. And it's like if you don't touch it, it can become like an oak tree. It can become a forest. And it's just looking at a little twig, you'd have no idea what it's capable of. Like the background you have, like that's what it can be if you don't touch it. I think it will probably be something like that. And you and I might be wrong, in which case they'll probably kill us first. But even then, though, I'm not really worried about that. Like, I mean, I am in that I'm a human, and death is scary. But I also think that just by doing the kind of, and I might be naive, but I think by just doing the right thing, even if you do get killed, I do think an all loving and an all just God would take care of you, right?
Hmm.
Like if you died fighting, I don't think you'd be like you lost. I think you'd be like you fucking went up against a satanic organization with control of the world's militaries. You and Ed did a podcast from a bedroom. Like that's awesome. You know, I think it would be
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh, we're gonna have fun in the afterlife. There's special places with all the hottest girls
All
ever
the
in
hot
history
air.
are just there.
Fuck yeah. I feel a little more at peace after this, Ed. I needed this. Um, Not to end it rather abruptly, but like I told you, somebody's coming to look at my apartment, so we got to wrap it up. But guys, if you look at the screen right now, a new form of music at gmail.com. That's how you can contact Ed. Ed, anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, Just Cheer Music is my main project, and that is a new musical system replacing the entire record industry. And we've got 168-hour space starting on June, I think, 29th on Twitter. So follow me on Twitter at A New Form of Music. And I'd love to invite you to come along as well, although you've been deleted off Twitter for about the fifth time in a year. So
I'll pop in. I have a couple alt accounts. I'll pop in. Just yeah, send me a heads up, dude. I'd love to pop in.
yeah, it's going to be, we've got the world record longest conversation last year, 207 hours. So
That's
I think we're doing
insane.
168 this year. So
That's
yeah, come and check it out.
insane.
It's about technology, freedom, liberty, and a little bit of cheer music.
You're an absolute madman at 207 hours. Good Lord. But yeah, I don't mean to end it abruptly, but I have to run. Forces out of
It's
my
all right.
control. Somebody's coming to look at my apartment, so we got to wrap this up. Ed, I'd love to do it again sometime, dude. Thank you so much. I love you, brother. Thanks for coming on my show.
You too, brother. Take it easy.
Thank you so much.